billion Vietnamese dollars is the value of assets belonging to Mr. Nguyen Hoa Ben of the investigator. However, an enormous amount compared to other major economic cases in Vietnam is just like a grain of sand. The 900 billion Vietnamese dollars accounts for only 0.13% of the total damage amounting to over 670. That 677 trillion figure is the amount that Trong My Lan embezzled. A staggering number, the damage caused by Trong My Lan and her accomplices is equivalent to about 5 to 7% of Vietnam's annual national, a very large figure, enough to seriously impact the budget, public investment, and social trust. Van Tin Phat Group was once one of the giants in the Ho Chi Minh City real estate market, owning a series of large-scale projects in the city. Under the management of Trong My Lan, the group expanded into various fields, from financial investment and commerce to luxury hotels. However, behind that glamour lies a complex financial ecosystem. According to investigation documents, Lan and her accomplices issued fake bonds through 4 companies under the Van Tin Phat system, creating fake cash flows to withdraw capital from Saigon Commercial Joint Stock Bank. A series of shell companies were established to buy back primary bonds, concealing internal cash flow. SCB, the bank with close ties to Van Tin Phat, became the main bloodline for this ecosystem, causing bad debts and financial risks to swell uncontrollably, with damages exceeding 677 trillion Vietnamese dollars. The case not only shook the but also raised major questions about corporate governance, bank supervision, and public trust in bond investment channels. Phase 1 of the case concluded with a death sentence for Trong My Lan. Many accomplices, including SCB bank leaders, subsidiary company directors, and related individuals, were sentenced to prison. Moving to Phase 2, the Ho Chi Minh City High People's Court continues to consider civil aspects and responsibility. Although some defendants received reduced sentences, Lan still faces the highest penalty as the previous death sentence has taken legal. She is compelled to compensate all damages of over 673 trillion 800 billion Vietnamese dollars to the victims, a figure reflecting the severity of the case and its profound impact on the financial system. On June 25, 2025, the Civil Judgment Enforcement Department announced it had disbursed over 7 trillion Vietnamese dollars, including 36,000 victims and individuals related to purchasing Van Tin. According to the enforcement decision, Lan is obligated to compensate over 30 trillion Vietnamese dollars to nearly 36,000 victims and 7,000 related. Enforcement faces many difficulties as most assets of the Van Tin Phat ecosystem are real estate that need to be appraised and auctioned to recover capital. Many other assets have been mortgaged or transferred, making the disposal process complicated and prolonged. Authorities continue to inspect, seize, and appraise assets to ensure the legal rights of affected investors and bondholders. The Van Tin Phat case reveals a systemic loophole in monitoring cash flows between enterprises and banks.
When a real estate conglomerate can influence a bank's credit operations, the risk of a chain collapse is inevitable.
Issuing bonds without collateral, while marketed to customers as safe investment products, left tens of thousands of people facing total loss. This is a strong warning about transparency and accountability in corporate capital mobilization. Additionally, the case highlights the importance of separating enterprises, banks, and securities companies to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure capital flows operate for it. Trong My Lan had a working session with 2 partners from Germany regarding participation in handling assets tied to SCB's restructuring with an initial phase amount of $3 billion. In this, Lan hopes $1 billion United States dollars will be used to pay bondholders who purchased Van Tin Phat bonds in Phase 2 of the case.
That's restructuring, partly to repay depositors at SCB and partly to increase SCB.
Representatives of the 2 foreign companies agreed to prove the capital source as requested by Lan and Van Tin Phat,
but it must be approved by competent state authorities and have collateral equivalent to the amount the foreign partners transfer into Vietnam.
Another case with damages over 8,600 billion Vietnamese dollars, a figure 9.5 times the Pan Hoang Minh case, with the main defendant being Nguyen Dong, Chairman and General Director of Pan Ho, is one of the most serious corporate bond mobilization cases recently in Vietnam. In the context of 2021-2022, when the real estate sector was frozen and bank credit tightened due to the impact of COVID-19, Tan Hoang Minh Group faced major financial difficulties, with maturing debts and operating costs piling up, creating pressure. To address financial pressure, Nguyen Dong led and directed the issuance of individual bonds through 3 companies in the system: Viet Star, Solon, and Ritter Palace. The methods were concluded to involve using fake contracts, deposit contracts, and shared transactions between legal entities within the group to fabricate business. Audit firms such as Viet, Northern Branch, and CPA Hanoi were accused of legitimizing financial reports to facilitate bond issue under Decree 153/2020, while in reality some companies reported overdue debts and lacked conditions for continuous operation. A total of 9 bond packages were issued, with a total value of over 10,030 billion. The actual capital raised from investors after Tan Hoang Nguyen's bond sales reached nearly 13,973 billion. However, most of this money was not used for its intended issuance purpose, and over 8,643.7 billion from 6,630 individual investors. Hu Andong and his accomplices were prosecuted for the crime of fraudulently appropriating. The mastermind role belonged to Hu Andong, who directed everything from policies to assigning tasks, establishing, fabricating financial reports, signing fake contracts, along with individuals like New Hoang Viet, in charge of finance and related leaders, directors, and supervisors. Regarding punishment, the procuracy proposed a sentence of 9 to 10 years in prison for Hu Andong. Du Hoang Viet was recommended 5 to 6 years in prison. Other defendants were recommended sentences ranging from several years in prison. The amount of damage was determined to be over 8,600 billion Vietnamese dollars, an exceptionally large figure compared to the investigative agency has recovered, meaning almost the entire financial consequences have been remedied to return to victims. Another case with damages of nearly 6,900 billion Vietnamese dollars in the past. In just one night, a series of bank stocks plummeted, investors panicked. Born in 1964 in Hanoi, Nguyen Duc Kinh was one of the prominent figures of the entrepreneur generation in Europe. He graduated from the National Economics University, early entered the banking sector, and was one of the founders of ACB, one of the leading commercial banks in Vietnam at that time. Not stopping at banking, Kinh expanded operations to securities, investment, real estate, and was particularly famous as the powerful owner of Hanoi Football Club, ACB. In the business, he was considered knowledgeable in finance, with vision and broad relationships, but that very dynamism led him to risky moves and ultimately legal violations. According to the indictment of the Supreme People's Court, Nguyen Duc Kinh established a series of companies to carry out financial business activities, share trading, and illegal investment. These companies were essentially controlled by Kinh, serving both as holders of bank shares and as tools for cross-ownership transactions, a common but risky phenomenon in the Vietnamese banking system at that time. The investigative agency determined that Kinh engaged in illegal trading of gold, a house, tax evasion, and intentionally violating state regulations on economic management. These actions not only violated the law but also caused significant losses to partners, affecting the financial system's reputation. On May 16, 2014, the Hanoi People's Court opened the first instance trial of Nguyen Duc Kinh and his accomplices. The case was considered a major banking scandal, attracting special public attention. These cases are not just numbers but also deep scars in Vietnam's economic history. Thousands of investors lost everything, trust was damaged, and years later, the economy still struggles to repair the consequences. Some damages can be remedied with time and reforms, but losses like market trust and business ethics take a very long time to revive. Those major cases serve as a reminder that no power or profit is great enough to stand above the law.
Like the journey? Subscribe and join the next expedition.